Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Lush Foliage. In today's video, we are going to be talking about this absolutely beautiful rare philodendron called as the Philodendron Giganteum Variegated. Now, there is another variety as well which is called as the Philodendron Giganteum Blizzard. Now, the only difference in both of these variety is that the Blizzard is the hybrid of our Giganteum Variegated. There is a regular version as well. Now, that regular version does not have any variegation. This in particular is a little bit rare because of the variegation. As we all know that most of the variegated plants are quite rare. Now, the most important thing about this plant is that it requires a good amount of light in order to retain that variegation. You cannot afford to keep this plant in less light. It will completely revert back to green in color. And always remember, once the plant starts to revert back, it's very difficult for the plant to, again get the variegation back. And apart from that, if you're going to expose this plant to direct sunlight, the leaves will get burnt. So you have to be extremely careful. So offer this plant a good amount of indirect bright light. Either you can give diffused light or filtered light, dappled sunlight. You can place it under the green shade cloth or under a large tree or a plant in order for it to get dappled light. Light is the most important thing, and that is one of the reasons why we are purchasing this plant. So if you're not able to maintain the variegation, then there is no point of buying a variegated plant. Now let's talk a little bit in detail about the soil mix. Now the soil mix that I've used over here is a mix of coco peat, garden soil, sand and perlite. Basically, we need to have a soil mix which is loose, porous and well draining, but yet retains an even moisture in the soil. And that's what the coco peat is going to help us with. The soil is going to give the basic nutrients. Sand is going to make the soil mix well draining because you cannot afford to have a soggy, wet soil or a soil that is poor in drainage, because if the water tends to pool into the pot, the plant will definitely have a root rot. The perlite is going to make the soil mix airy because they prefer a loose soil. So this is going to work out really well. Now, talking about fertilizers, whenever you have variegated plants, do not over fertilize them, because again, by adding too much of fertilizers, the plant can revert to green in color. So ensure that whenever you're doing a fertilizer, give a very weak fertilizer. Ideally do it during the growing season, which is during the summers. During winters, please do not add any fertilizers because the plant tends to slow down its growth. So it's better not to add any fertilizer. Apart from that, also reduce your watering during the winters. Now, talking about pest issues, usually the plant will get affected with spider mites. So always turn the leaves and check. If you tend to notice any small little tiny yellow spots, that indicates that the plant is getting affected with spider mites. So always do a routine check once in 2 weeks or once in 3 weeks. The moment you see any kind of infestation, take control over it and get rid of it. The mealybugs will usually attack the stem area. So always do a visual check. Never let the infestation reach into a stage wherein it's out of control, because then it damages the plant. Apart from that, this is a rare and it is a delicate plant because it's a variegated one. So it's even more necessary that you take good care of it and be vigilant if there is any kind of infestation. Now, talking about watering, remember guys, these are not drought tolerant plant. So whenever you see around 1 to 2 inches of the upper layer of soil is dry, go ahead and do a complete watering until the water starts passing through the drain hole. Please do not keep it underwatered. It's not drought tolerant. The leaves will start to wilt. It indicates that the plant requires water. Do not ignore when the leaves start to wilt, because if you are going to keep this plant dehydrated, most probably this plant will not recover or revive back. So you have to be extremely careful. Always look out for signs. The plant, if it's well hydrated, the leaves are going to be like the way you see in this picture. But the moment the plant will start to get dehydrated, the leaves will start to wilt and bend downwards. Never let the plant reach to that stage, because that is not a very healthy way of taking care of your plants. Always have a balanced watering and do not let your plant have that state. Now, talking about propagation, it is pretty simple to propagate your philodendron. It's the same process. I will put the link in the description below. You can follow it. Now, this is a very small little plant, so of course it won't have those nodes yet. But this is a climbing plant, as in when it starts to grow, you can use a moss pole, coir pole or a sphagnum moss pole as well. And as in when it starts to grow, it will grow vertically because it's an epiphyte. So whenever you tend to see that there are nodes, you can, or with aerial roots, you tend to see nodes, you can cut couple of centimeters below. Now you won't understand by just saying it, so I'll put the link in the description below. You can check out the entire process of how to propagate your philodendron. Now, talking about temperature and humidity, these are tropical plants. They prefer a warmer environment, so a temperature range between 15 degrees Celsius up to 34-35 degrees Celsius is going to work out fantastic for these plants. And talking about humidity, an average humidity of anything above 50%, 60% is going to work out. 60 plus is absolutely fantastic for these plants. But let's say if you are from a very dry environment and if you're growing it indoor, then use a humidifier. And if you're growing it outdoor, ensure you club a lot of plants together. Apart from that, do a light misting during the afternoons when it's very warm. This will definitely help your plant recover. Extremely delicate plant. Always remember, variegated plants are very delicate, so you need to give a little bit more care. I wouldn't say that these are very beginner friendly plants. You need to have a little bit of experience, especially when you're growing variegated plants. Now, talking about, is this plant toxic? Yes, this plant is toxic, so ensure you're keeping this plant away from the reach of small children and pets, because if you ingest leaves of a philodendron, they can be quite dangerous, so ensure you're keeping it at a safe distance. Apart from that, if you're going to keep it at a safe distance, it's an absolutely beautiful plant. All you have to do is just give those basic care requirements, and trust me, the plant will do quite well. The only thing that you need to get that experience with light, because direct sunlight is going to damage it, less light is going to revert the plant back to green. So you need to have a balance wherein it doesn't get burnt, at the same time it does not revert back to green. So guys, that's all about it. I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button, and if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe, and keep propagating.